Prince Uran, illusion of power, spiritual responsibility, and the fall of appearances. The testimony of the spirit, Prince Uran, presented in the second part of Heaven and Hell, offers a compelling analysis of the spiritual effects of power abuse, domination over others, and the false idea of personal superiority. His account demonstrates that authority exercised without moral awareness transforms, after passing, into profound inner suffering. Prince Uran manifests with full lucidity, preserved identity, and clear memory of his earthly life. However, his spiritual state is marked by intense disturbance, anguish, and a sense of downfall. In life, he exercised power authoritatively, driven by pride, the pleasure of commanding, and the belief that his position placed him above common moral laws. In the spiritual realm, this illusion completely dissolves. Modern depth psychology helps to understand this state. When the ego is structured around control, domination, and external validation, it becomes fragile in the face of losing these instruments. Authority that does not rest on ethical values creates an inflated identity. When the symbols of power disappear, consciousness collapses, generating intense suffering and disorientation. Spiritism clarifies that the suffering of Prince Uran does not stem from having held a position of leadership, but from the selfish and oppressive use of that power. Authority, according to moral law, is always a function of service. When it transforms into an instrument of vanity and oppression, it creates direct consequences in the consciousness of those who wield it. Modern science reinforces this reading by demonstrating that relationships based on domination produce profound psychological effects on both the dominator and the dominated. Power without empathy dehumanizes and breaks essential bonds. On the spiritual plane, where empathy expands, consciousness begins to intensely feel the effects of its own actions on others. Another striking point in Prince Uran's testimony is the shock of spiritual equality. He discovers that, in the spiritual world, there are no titles, castes, or inherited privileges. All spirits are subject to the same laws of progress and responsibility. This discovery is painful for a consciousness accustomed to rigid hierarchy and forced obedience. Spiritism shows that this suffering is not definitive. As Prince Uran begins to understand that true power is moral and that legitimate authority arises from example, justice, and humility, the possibility of inner reconstruction opens up. Suffering persists only as long as consciousness clings to the old identity based on domination. This testimony also offers a deeply relevant warning. On any scale, family, professional, political, or social, the irresponsible use of power generates real consequences. Spiritual life does not ignore positions of leadership, but rigorously evaluates how they have been exercised. To lead is to serve. To dominate is to hinder one's own progress. Prince Uran teaches us that no external position protects consciousness from moral laws. The greater the power, the greater the responsibility. What is not learned through reflection can be learned through pain, but always with an educational purpose. Reflecting on this account is an invitation to humility and inner vigilance, asking ourselves how we use our influence, authority, or position in our daily lives is an essential exercise in spiritual maturity. True value lies not in commanding, but in contributing to the growth of others. If this testimony has helped you reflect on power, responsibility, and moral awareness, like, share, and leave your comment. Your participation helps this message reach more people.